Now let me tell you of the days of high adventure. Welcome back to Bad Movies Rule, the podcast that celebrates the movies of the people, including a movie about a barbarian starring a bodybuilder, an NBA legend, and a flying smoke bird. It's Conan the Destroyer. I kind of wish the smoke bird had been more heavily featured in this movie, but it's the best special effect in the film. How you guys doing this morning?
Great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm great.
Wonderful.
Clint Bush is joining us this morning. Clint, this is a movie I've been waiting to see what you thought of because I already know what he thinks of it because we watched it together probably. When I say he, this is Bob Hauser joining us over. Bob, how you doing?
Great, man. How you doing?
Good. Clint, how are things going, man? Good?
Things are going good, man. We're having fun. Staying out of trouble.
Awesome. This is a movie that when we were going to start this podcast, it was probably within the first 10 movies that I wrote down. And so when this got drafted in the movie draft, no one was more happy than I was because I've been waiting to talk about an Arnold movie. I mean, heck, man, we've been talking about how does Arnold make every movie better pretty much every episode we've been doing in this show. And now we finally get to talk about the man, the myth, the legend himself.
The Oak.
The Oak.
Oh, yes.
That's right.
We're talking about my movie.
Also, live in studio, we have Arnold Schwarzenegger with it. Arnold, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. I just got done doing 3,000 push-ups with my pinky.
Nice.
It's incredible that you'd let us bring you on this show and charge us nothing. It's really just awesome.
I'll send you the bill.
Oh, please don't. Let's do this. Let's get some of the vitals of this movie out of the way, and then we're going to just dive right in. So this movie it's called, as I said, I always feel the first thing in the morning that I'm,
Wow. There you go. Much better.
I'll start over. All right, so as I said, the movie is Conan the Destroyer, which was the second movie in the Conan series. So Conan the Barbarian was the first one. And then this was the follow-up sequel. This was 1982. And this movie was directed by Richard Fleischer. Now, Richard Fleischer is Richard Fleischer is Richard Fleischer is a legit director, right? This guy is kind of a Hollywood royalty. He's gone back like, this was towards the end of his career. He had been doing films in Hollywood for a long time. He did Soylent Green. Either of you ever see Soylent Green?
Soylent
people,
Green
right?
is
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. No, I never saw it.
But you know of the meme, basically, right? Yeah,
Charles Heston.
that's right. They made us actually watch Soylent Green in biology class my freshman year of college. It was like right towards the beginning of the year, too. I was like, this is what college is? We sit around and watch old Charlton Heston movies? But
That's great.
yeah, that's the one where they find it's like overpopulated in the future, and they're having to mass produce food to feed the people, and they find out that it is people.
That's awesome.
Soylent Green that they've been feeding everybody.
Oh, good God.
Yeah, and then he also directed 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
With the giant squid, right? Kirk Douglas.
And Kirk Douglas. So this is the guy that directed this. So I've got lots to say about that as we get into it. And then it was written by Stanley Mann. It was actually, there was two other guys who kind of did the first pass, and then when they decided to make it more family-friendly, they brought in Stanley Mann. Really the only other credit to his name, you probably recognize him from his Firestarter, that old Drew Barrymore movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right, from the early 80s, based off that Stephen King book. And the movie starred Arnold Schwarzenegger, Wilt Chamberlain, Grace Jones, Olivia d'Abo, and Tracy Walter. Or if Kurt was here, he'd say the movie starred the Terminator, an NBA player, Grace Jones, and the girl from Superman 2. But it's got a pretty good cast. I don't think the movie, and I'll ask you guys what you think in your general impressions, but I don't think the movie necessarily is in this category of good, bad movie because of the cast or the direction. But what are your overall impressions of the film?
I mean, I think the film tried to kind of tiptoe between a actual like sword and sorcerer like movie where you'd have some actual violence and stuff like that, and something kind of funny, and it didn't really hit either. Mm-hmm. But that's just me.
It was a straight up commercial for steroids and testosterone pills.
You think they made this just to promote steroid use? I feel like if that's the case, it's the worst commercial for steroids of all time.
Well, yeah, I mean, wow, I can't talk today. What I originally was going to say is not appropriate for the show, so I had to change it real quick to my head. Like,
Got it. Well, the movie itself was moderately successful. The issue is that it was being compared to the first one. So it made it had an $18 million budget, which is actually the same. Roughly, the first one had about a $20 million budget, so it was about the same budget-wise, right? But this one only grossed $31 million, which is a profit, right?
Right.
But the problem is... Not a killing, but it made money. The problem is the first one on the same budget made $80 million. So
expectations.
Exactly. Did not meet expectations at all. And it currently sits at a 25% on Rotten Tomatoes and a sub-6 on IMDb. It's a 5.9.
There's a lot of great 5.9 movies on IMDb.
Is there?
There's a lot.
Name one.
Remember Independence Day sat in the 5s for a while before it got boosted?
Did it really?
It did. A lot of Will Smith's movies got sat at the 5s for a while.
Independence Day does not belong in the 5s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the big so I bring that up to say that even though I think, Clint, you brought up Siskel and Ebert gave this a good review when it came out.
Yeah, I mean, at least they said mixed reviews when they came out, but legitimately 3 out of 4 stars. That to me seemed, or 3 out of 4 thumbs up either way.
Yeah. Well, so there were some critics that like it, but as it sits now on Rotten Tomatoes, 3 out of 4 critics don't like it, and it doesn't have a high rating from the people themselves. So,
what was the audience score?
I don't remember what the audience score, but I mean the 5.9 on IMDb is essentially an audience score, right? So, for some reason, it's just not a well-loved picture, and I think it's because it's in the shadow of the original. Right, the original is a fantastic movie.
I would be saying most people who would watch this have watched the original.
Yeah,
not a lot of people are going to jump into the second movie,
except for me. So my first experience.
I've never watched the first one still to this day.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
No.
Okay,
this is the only Conan I've seen.
So the first one I ever saw was this one. Right, I was a kid. This is the 80s. It was on TV. Right, so I taped it off the television and I watched it nonstop. So. It wasn't until I was old enough where my dad was like, yeah, you can probably watch the original Conan now, which is far more violent.
By a landslide, yes.
Yeah. And so actually this was the first movie I saw of Conan, and then I went and saw the first one, which I recognize is the better movie.
It's kind of interesting that you say that you saw this on TV, because to me, honestly, this feels like the TV cut of a movie that could have been a little more hardcore.
Yeah. Well,
it was hardcore, and they had to cut it.
Yeah, well, the original script even was much more in line with the first one, and then they had to, soften it up. And you can look. I think that's what makes people upset is you have a character, and this is what studios tend to do. They say, well, at the time when I read is E.T. had just come out, and so they thought, well, now we've got to do something like that, right? We've got to make it family friendly so we can make more money, so more people will go see it, so it doesn't have a hard R, and so they neuter the character essentially, right? Yeah. And add some comedic relief that is just not needed and just grating. And then you end up with this kind of bland movie compared to the original. I still think it's a good movie. I still enjoy Conan the Destroyer. I still watch it every time it comes on or if I get a chance to. So I'm firmly in the category of this is a good, bad movie. But there's a lot of people out there that think this is just a straight up bad movie.
People are weird, man. What they think is a bad movie and what they think is a good movie. It's like it's so interesting. So
I think overall it's much less epic in scale than the first one. The first one's kind of this saga. It starts off when he's a kid, and then through his captivity, and then he becomes a gladiator, and it just like seems like just more epic. In the scope of the whole thing, right? Whereas this is a very straightforward movie.
Right.
We go here, we come back, we fight, the end.
Right.
It's a point A from point B movie. Which
it really is.
Which was happening a lot in the 80s.
It was.
A lot of that plot line was always like, take this person to here and bring him back here and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but I appreciate that they at least, this is almost like a soft reboot of the series in a way, and I appreciate that there was at least some ties back to the original, like Mako played Akiro is in the movie. They at least reference his girlfriend that died in the first one. So it's not just like sometimes with these sequels where they want to change it and do a kind of a soft reboot, they bring back Arnold and Conan and then they just recast everybody else in the movie as brand new, and it's almost like, did the first one ever happen?
Right.
But they at least didn't do that, with this. So I'm interested to see as we go through this what you thought, because you don't have that frame of reference of
the first
one. Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, I would say I watched the movie. It wasn't bad. I felt at least entertained by it. Something that I sought to watch again. As I said a moment ago, I was upset that the rental process did not allow me to go watch it again. But I wanted to watch it again to be more prepared for this, not so much because I really wanted to watch it again.
Right.
But again, if it was on, it would stay on. It's one of those things. It's not terrible by any stretch. It's not, holy cow, I got to go watch it again by any means at all.
I was watching it with my family yesterday. I turned it on. I'm like, I got to watch this movie. You guys can watch it with me. I'm making notes.
Yeah, because if you were watching the original, you would not be able to say that.
No, exactly. So I'm like, this movie's PG. It's the 80s. It's Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
I remember it being very fantasy-like.
They did lean more heavy into the fantasy elements of this one.
So I didn't. So my daughter is sitting next to me. My wife is sitting over here, and we're just watching the movie, and we're just going through the motions of what he's doing, and then it gets to the Sarah Douglas, the Queen part, and then it gets to the Wonder Years sister part and their particular wardrobe.
Yes.
And you're like, all right, time to leave the room. All right, this is great. Okay.
They don't show anything.
No.
But it almost seems like they're going to at every second, even though they never do.
It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Get out.
Well, so she didn't watch any other?
No.
I'd be interested to see what she thought about the thing overall.
No, this is how she identified.
From the perspective of a 7-year-old, is Conan the Destroyer good or a bad movie?
This is how she identified who Arnold Schwarzenegger was.
Yeah.
She loves Arnold Schwarzenegger, but her first movie she ever saw him in was Jingle All the Way. So she goes, it's the guy that says, put the cookie down now. I'm like, yes, it's the same guy.
Imagine saying, oh, it's the guy from the Cookie movie and not like the Terminator or literally anything else. That's amazing to me that's her frame of reference for Arnold movies.
Well, she can't watch like 90% of them. I mean,
you haven't shown her Total Recall yet?
No, not yet. I'm waiting for like ages 10 to start showing her.
Oh, you got to show her Predator at least.
Oh, yeah.
Dylan, you son of a...
honestly... How is a kid supposed? I mean, I was probably 8 years old when I watched Predator for the first time.
Yeah, well, yeah, you and I are mutants, and we watch stuff that we shouldn't have.
She won't even know what it means to be a sexual Tyrannosaurus.
Oh my God, I actually rewatched Predator a few days ago, and Jesse Ventura's line. I'm not going to repeat it, but wow, that is an awesome line, and would not fly well.
No, it's perfectly preserved in 1987.
It should stay in 1987. Jesse Ventura for president.
Well,
can you imagine the campaign for Jesse Ventura?
No, I can't. Slogan? How did he get elected governor when he had that? People get canceled for like a bad joke they told on Twitter like 10 years ago, and he gets away with that and still gets elected governor.
Well, I mean, that was his character. That wasn't him.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. These days, they don't separate all that stuff.
No, they don't. But it would be hilarious to see.
That'd be funny.
That campaign.
And it also turned out that Jesse Ventura is, in fact, a real-life crazy person.
No, he is.
So,
He is.
Well, let's dive into the movie, guys. This is one of those movies that I appreciate because there's no BS right off the bat. It just jumps straight in to, like, within 1 minute of the movie, he's fighting 12 guys.
Right.
That are coming to attack him.
That's just a tryout, though.
Right. And he doesn't know who they are, why.
Well, you have to establish the
Dominance.
bad guys with the black horn rubber hats. And then you cut to Schwarzenegger kneeling.
Yes.
And the sunlight beaming off of him.
In a diaper.
In a diaper.
Basically.
With what my wife pointed out,
yes,
the biggest cod piece she's ever seen. And I go, catch, that's the only thing, well, it's right there. I go,
it's huge. Even later on in the movie when he switches to pants, the cod piece is still there.
He's wearing a cod piece over
which
pajamas.
Is like, you can tell is moving independently from the rest of everything else.
And then when he pulls off his pants, he rips it off, but the cod piece is still intact.
It's still intact. That's right.
I'm like, that's the only thing you notice first right away is the codpiece. She's like, well, it's right there. I go, yeah, okay.
What'd you think of Arnold's costume in this movie?
His opening costume there was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. It's all you need. If you're
That's
Arnold, legitimately at that point in life, that's all you need.
That's what you look like after the shower.
That's
No.
what. That's why didn't you come in and cosplay as Conan like you did as Ace
God,
Hunter from?
Oh my God.
If Ace Hunter and Conan had a baby, it'd be Clint.
We're gonna have to have like somebody paint abs on me.
Yeah.
Because I only have one.
Get the.
I have the one ab.
I'm gonna make an Amazon order for all the baby oil in the world.
They used it up. There was a global shortage after they made this Conan movie. It took till 1984 to get back to
Get all
where
the
it
baby
was.
oil
I was
back.
actually watching the initial come in on this thing with just the landscape and everything when they're filming, and I was like, hey, that could have been from the Skeletor movie, the He-Man movie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
it could have been.
Holy cow, that could have been the same place that they were fighting there for half a moment.
One thing you'll probably hear me say repeatedly this episode is how much I love the score. This movie had a great, and that opening score, dun 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 dun. Oh my gosh!
I made a note saying awesome music in the opening sequence of slow-mo riding horses.
That's right. It's just these dudes.
Yeah.
I can't believe I skipped over that. And Mako is the guy that played Akira, does the voiceover. Let me tell you of the times of high adventure.
Yeah.
And then the music kicks in. I mean, it's great.
Now, I haven't seen the first one in a long time. Is it the same musical score from the first movie?
I don't remember. Isn't that sad? Because honestly, it's probably been over 10 years since I've watched Barbarian.
Okay,
So-
I wasn't sure.
I don't know.
I should have
But
Googled it.
regardless, if it's the one they used from the first one or not, it's fantastic.
Great score to whoever did the score. Who did the score?
Don't ask me questions I don't know the answer to.
You have 3 pages.
I know, I know, but I don't have who did the
Who
score.
did the greatest score in 80s movies?
I just assumed that it was just in the atmosphere. As they were riding around, they could just hear
You're
this
still
music.
alive.
It was just there.
It was
Sure.
there. They recorded it live.
Sir or miss, if you're still out there listening and you're alive to this day, thank you for the great score of Conan.
No,
the
that was
Destroyer.
just it was just in the air, and they just recorded it live.
Oh, fine.
Right.
Right?
It's just in the
happened.
air. It's the
That's right.
birds and all the natural.
Basil Poldoris. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. This is the guy's name.
Portores. Thank you.
Basil, the common spelling of the herb, and then we got Pol, the Doris. Basil Poldoris.
Basil Portores. Thank you, sir, for your
Oh
service.
my gosh.
Of Conan the Destroyer.
Well, back to what you were saying about the costume. Funny thing is when Richard Fleischer took over to direct this, because John Milius, the guy that directed the first one, was not available, and he recommended Richard. So it wasn't like a bad breakup or anything like that.
Which is shocking.
Richard said, "Why Arnold was clothed almost the entire first movie? Why?" And so he did everything he could to make sure he had as little on as possible for this entire film.
He succeeded.
Because he's like, why? If this is his best asset, to Richard at the time, Arnold's acting was not his best asset. Although I think by this movie, you could see it start to improve.
I was going to say, I don't know if it's like, this is 1984.
Mm-hmm.
Did he actually improve in his ability to speak English that quickly? Or did we listen to enough Arnold over the years that our ability to understand Arnold has improved regardless of his ability to speak
Your Arnold
English?
translator just kicked
Exactly.
I think it could be both. I think that that's a legitimate thing.
Right.
Okay. I think you're not wrong. But he also got better because even with my Arnold translator, if I go back and watch like the original dub of Hercules in New York, I still can't understand a thing that he's saying. So
with his original voice.
when they had to dub it over with a guy.
And it's like the whitest guy on the
Right.
planet. They did
Hello, I am Hercules. And it's just, Arnold
Like his
lip
ball?
syncing basically. Yeah. So the diaper costume was a Richard Fleischer thing. And funny enough, this was a toned down Arnold. He had to lose weight when he began playing the part. This is in the first one. He had to take off, I don't know how many pounds, but it was a lot of pounds because he was so built, coming off Mr. Olympia, that he couldn't even like wield and swing the sword properly.
Right.
So he had to like drop some weight. So this is like not as built Arnold as he was for
No, but
competition.
cut like crazy.
Right, exactly. But it's incredible what this guy, the shape he was in. Do you know he was 37 years old already by this point?
Oh, wow.
Good
He
for
got
him.
kind of a late start as far as being like a marquee leading man in Hollywood. This was the beginning. This same year, the next movie came out after Destroyer was Terminator, the original.
Okay.
And that catapulted him to like superstardom at that
Wasn't
point.
Terminator filmed first before Conan?
No, in fact, it was because he had to shoot this that Cameron said it helped Terminator because it gave him more time to rework the script and change it up and stuff. And so he credits I keep trying to say Arnold and Conan at the same time. Arnold's schedule conflict, which pushed back Terminator, said ended up being a good thing.
That's good.
Because it gave more time to work on stuff,
cool.
fine tune it. But yeah, so after this, he's off into the stratosphere. By that point, he's 38 years old by the time Terminator comes out. And I mean, he's almost 40 at that point. He still would. And then, he rattled off, 20 films in the next 15 years?
Yeah. 20 box office successes.
Yeah. So incredible shape that he was in. It's only 5 years younger than we are now.
Right.
At the time. It's crazy.
And he's about to battle bad guys in spiked helmets.
Yeah, so he's slicing up these dudes all right in. He's just like, and we first meet Malik at this point too. So we like, okay, here's the comic relief guy that was,
Yeah.
Okay.
It seemed like,
He was terrible.
he seemed like the crackhead buddy down the street that helps you out for a couple of bucks. You know what I mean?
Did anybody ever watch, listen
Can we
to
not
the...
use that? Is that bad?
that's absolutely accurate. you got any, he's almost like
His audio was off. Like, you ever just watch him talk? I'm not trying
There's
to
a lot of times ADR is off,
His ADR is terrible. It's like you go from a Hollywood Conan movie to a Clint Eastwood spaghetti western.
And I like Tracy Walter as an actor.
Oh, he's Bob the Goon, man.
He's Bob the Goon from the original Batman. He's Cookie in City Slickers.
Right.
Sorry, everybody had to hit the mic.
No.
Cookie from City Slickers.
It's okay. But so I like him, but it just was miscast in this movie. This character, Clint, was not in the original.
Okay. No, I figured that because I kind of did some reading.
But you get no backstory at all. He's just, this guy was with Conan now. I guess he picked him up in between movies.
Right.
But he's just there, and he's pretty much useless. I mean, there's a couple times he helps out in the movie.
Yeah.
But most of the time, he's there to give a funny line here or there that aren't really that funny.
Well, and that was my thing is like he legitimately has these deliveries, these moments where like, you guys go on without and blah, blah. And then like he has that half a moment to think, well, all right, now I'm all alone. All right, fine, I'll come with you. You know, it's like,
He does that same joke.
We always do that. Hey, would Arnold have made it better? Would Danny DeVito have made that role better?
I think.
You know who had made that role better? To replace Tracy Walters.
Who's that?
Nicolas Cage.
Oh my God.
Could you imagine Nicolas Cage?
Well, that would have been like Peggy Sue got married Nicolas Cage at that point.
He was still crazy.
He was still, I know, but he was a little bit, he wasn't full Nick Cage yet at that point. Right? You might have, I think there's some people that maybe could have done slightly better, but you're talking about elevating some pretty crummy material. They didn't give him a lot of great. I mean, there's a couple funny lines we'll talk about.
That's what I'm saying, though, too. If you have that guy who can do his own material and stuff like that, would they have just come up with something that was better than what was written? So,
well, basically, the movie starts off, and Conan is there praying in front of. Is this where? Now, am I to understand this is where the same location where she was burned at the when they burned her body after she died, or he's just praying at some random altar, or what? But he's kneeling down and praying.
I initially was that the same table that Aslan died on?
They're in Narnia?
They're in Narnia. How did this happen?
This is before Aslan came to power. This is the dark side of Narnia. And all these guards with the plastic helmets roll up.
Black spiked helmets.
And they attack him, and he kills probably 20 guys. They're trying to get him with a net.
Did you notice all the bad guys are the most out of shape doofuses?
Yeah, they're a bunch of fat dudes on horses.
It's like nowadays, you see the bad guys and stuntmen are all jacked and in incredible condition shape, and then you see these guys and they're all dad bods galore.
Yeah.
But if you're this queen and you're going to go, you're sacrificing some people to this fantastic warrior, are you going to take your good warriors? No, Will Chamberlain sits next to me. We're going to save him for later. We don't want him to die now.
All right, so that's a good point. That's a great point. She sends
Harlem
all these guys to go get him, right? Knowing full well that Conan's going to just kill all of them, right? This is, as you said, a tryout. She wants Conan to help her with something. How would you like to be one of the tryout guys?
Right.
That's just totally sent to the slaughter.
At what point, after buddy number 13 dies, wait, hold on a second. Why don't we all go at the same time?
Right. And then Wilt Chamberlain does, swings that thing in the air that's the calls off the thing, and you're like, oh, this was just Steve is dead over there. We're just
Right.
this is just a
stopping.
tryout. We're just stopping to now we're gonna have a chit chat with him.
Yeah.
What about Steve and Mike?
Why couldn't
Conan
you just
never
talk to
moved.
him right off the bat? That's his
Right.
He never moved. He literally stayed within the radius of where he was at
Right.
and just swung his sword.
So you're saying it's kind of like the knife fight from Time Cop then? He just kind of stood there with his sword and everybody came to him?
Yeah, but the problem is
God, that
it doesn't really matter, right?
I have a feeling that some of these animals were not injured, or at least, hurt a little bit here.
You mean the horse he punched directly in the face?
dude.
That is
Conan versus
relatively
horse equals horse punching.
that is relatively humorous, but I'm talking about when they when they threw the horse down, like
Yeah.
the horses fall over themselves forward. It's like
Yeah.
there's way too much. They're actually tripping these horses over.
You think so?
Oh, they have to be. There's no way that horse just knew to act and fall down.
Well,
like that.
I don't know what the
That's what he's saying.
standards and practices were at the time
Yeah.
for that kind of
He
stuff. I
legitimately
know.
punched the horse. It's okay.
You think that
Yeah, why not?
it did look a little too good?
That horse looked very. That was in one shot.
That
It wasn't
horse
like
was
there was
confused.
There was no cut right there. If there was a cut.
Like, what the hell? You know it's going to be a good movie. Within the first 10 minutes, 2 animals get punched in the face.
Not only does the horse get just blasted with the right hand, he then tries to apologize to a camel a few minutes later. The camel then spits or sneezes on him, and then he just Macho Man hammer fists the camel in the skull.
Yeah.
He straight up donkey punches this. All right, so Clint, in the first movie, this is like a running theme in Conan. He punched this camel in the face.
Okay.
When he was drunk.
Yes.
And so when they're riding in after now, the queen says, "Hey, I want your help
Right.
with something. I'll bring your girlfriend back to life." So even though she just tried to kill him, he's like, "Okay, I'll go with you." And back they ride to the
Was
kingdom.
there some sorcery with that too? Like she actually
well, she showed
him?
the girl.
Right, that's what I'm saying. She
Yeah.
showed him, not just that wasn't his memory flashback.
Right, because he legitimately was like, "I serve nobody. He's,
Right.
you're not my queen." And she shows the body of his girlfriend.
Well, yeah, she's a villain from Krypton.
Yes, Sarah
Douglas.
Douglas, thank you, was awesome. And so he sees his girlfriend on the pyre where her body was burned, if it was the same place. And so she convinces Conan to go with her because she says, "If you help me, I'll bring her back from the dead."
Right.
And then they're riding back to the palace, and they see this camel, and Malik, which this is part of what doesn't make sense, because doesn't that camel look familiar? Like Malik wasn't there in the first one when this incident happened.
I would have known that.
No, right. So this is why I'm explaining. And so I'm very sorry about this, right? He starts to apologize to this camel, and it just snots all over him.
Well, that's one thing you don't do to
I think, if
Schwarzenegger.
anything, this movie would have been better if that theme had continued. After that, those first 2, they didn't punch any more animals in the
It
face.
should have just been. It should have just
Like
been
jackals,
every.
and then just like random other animals while they're sleeping.
That's right.
It should have just been a super camel at the end of the movie that he fought.
If every scene involved him just even
well,
like
it had a horn.
It's true.
even if every scene had just had him randomly punching one animal, like even nonchalantly, like he just happens to go past an animal and he punches it.
Just like accidentally squirrel.
It would have been.
He would have exploded a squirrel.
This movie would be a 7+ on IMDb right now if that was
be
the
a
case.
9+ top 250 list.
I'm gonna supercut of Arnold from all the animals he's punched in movies.
I'm sure there's one out there on
I'm
YouTube.
sure there probably is. Somebody find that.
15 minutes.
If you can find that or put it together and send it to us
even
at
hits a-
thisshowIstrash@gmail.com.
Yes, please. Dude.
Appreciate it. He even what?
He even hit a deer in a Christmas movie.
That's what I'm saying. He punched a reindeer in a Santa
Picked the
Claus
wrong
movie.
day.
That's right. He also punched Santa in that movie too. He's Arnold. This is why you ever wonder why these guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger so much? Tell me another actor that can get away with doing this stuff and have it still be awesome. All right, so Conan heads back to the castle with the queen, with Sarah Douglas, and they walk in, and he's not a very bright guy. Can we agree on that? Conan's not the smartest guy ever.
Yeah.
Because I'm watching this movie, and within 2 seconds of them getting in, you see the monks and the robes and the followers and the weird stuff. You're like, this is a cult. Like immediately, I'm like, this is a cult.
You wouldn't like walk in there and be like, "Wait, what's going on here? This looks like a
Like an insane cult.
yeah."
Yeah.
It looks like amongst other things, you're just kind of like,
When do I get my sweet robes? It's kind of
right? You're like,
Honestly.
okay.
So
No
But he
questions
just like,
are asked.
no questions asked. We're good. We're good.
Well, you got to think too. I mean, he's truly devoted to his lost love, and if he can get her back, whatever it takes.
That's true. Well, this is what's driving him through the entire movie, right? Because that's got to supersede everything. Because there's so much that happens that you would say, why are you still helping these people? Yes. Right? But that's got to be it, right? That's the through line. And in fact, this first meeting he essentially has with the queen. Is that her name? Thomas?
Oh, hold on. Sorry.
Doesn't matter, but we'll just call her Sarah. Sarah is the actress. Sarah Douglas. Taramis. Thank you. Taramis, who played by Sarah Douglas, who was famously Ursa in the Superman movies with, the right hand of General Zod fighting against Christopher Reeve. Superman 2, one of my all-time favorite movies. So Sarah Douglas is awesome. Anyway, she's in here and she's laying out for him the plan. You've got to take this girl. Girl was born with a mark, so she's destined to, bring back the horn that will raise the sleeping god, Daggett. And, it's guarded by a wizard, which Conan does not seem thrilled about.
Right.
Right? He's scared of magic because, of course he is. Right? You can't muscle and cut magic, right? And that's what he is. He punches animals in the face and he cuts things with his sword. And then this is interesting. There was apparently a deleted scene where the two of them hook up before he leaves, which they decided to cut out of the movie.
Him and Sarah Douglas.
Conan and Ptolemus. I already screwed up her name. Whatever. The evil queen. We'll just call her that.
Call her Ursa.
Taramis.
Taramis, okay.
Kind of like tiramisu, but doesn't finish for you.
It's nowhere near as sweet. Were they hooked up before they left?
Why would you delete that scene?
Because they wanted to make it PG.
They wanted it PG instead of R.
But that's interesting to me that they sleep together.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a very interesting scene to watch.
It would have made it a better movie for me.
Like you would just, I don't know, who would be manhandling who in that?
Well, I don't want to know. We don't need to get into the details.
You're going too far.
So, and then then they have one of the biggest tropes out there. See how long it's been? See how long it's been?
I think it's the other button. There it is.
Big time movie trope. Big time. The mustache twirling villain exposition dump scene where they go, now remember, Conan does not yet know, but we are going to betray him. And soon as she has the key, put your sword through Conan's heart. Muhahaha. I almost think every time I see a scene like this where, she leaves the room to tell all the other bad guys, all the bad guy stuff that's going to happen.
Right.
I always think of that scene from Spaceballs when Rick Moranis and Colonel Sanders do the same thing. And then Rick Moranis turns to the camera and goes, everybody got that?
Yes.
Right.
Right. Like the whole reason we're doing this is so that the audience understands what's happening. Because otherwise the conversation makes no sense at all.
Right.
But yeah, so she pulls in and we can talk about him now. Boombata, which is the captain of the guard for the evil queen. Taramis, and played by none other than Wilt Chamberlain.
The Harlem Globetrotter.
He's not a Harlem Globetrotter. Bob, what the hell is the matter with you?
No, he said he was playing on the Harlem Globetrotters. That's what it says. Hold on. I'm
Wilt Chamberlain played on the whole Harlem Globetrotters?
I don't think that's true.
Well,
he was an NBA legend and a Los Angeles Laker.
It says right
I cannot believe you just said, that guy from the Harlem Globetrotters, we're talking about Wilt Chamberlain?
100 points.
Hold on.
100-point
Hold
game.
100. You guys scored 100 points in a game.
Oh, I missed that part. Played for the University of Kansas and the Harlem Globetrotters before joining the NBA. I didn't see that.
Okay.
Oh my God.
But you,
All right,
you
I
just
still didn't know who he was.
You skipped over his entire NBA
How
career.
old are you?
5, I
All
guess.
right.
Bob? That would be like
Well,
this movie's no, don't even that'd be like this guy.
I wasn't trying to discredit him.
Hold
I
on,
just said he played
hold on.
Globetrotters.
I'd be like, Michael Jordan's in this movie. Like, the guy from the Gatorade commercials.
Space Jam.
The Space Jam guy. What is the matter with you?
My apologies. I don't watch sports,
That's
ladies
so
and
good.
gentlemen.
Okay, so he did it before his NBA career. So
so
you'd be like, Michael Jordan, the guy that played at.
10% right.
You'd be like, Michael Jordan, the guy that played at the University of North Carolina, that guy?
Yes, I wouldn't know that. Michael Jordan that flew through the air and did a slam dunk.
Right.
Oh, my gosh.
So, like, I actually had to stop watching this movie and text James and said, don't you think it's ironic that Wilt Chamberlain, a man who professes to have had sex with over 20,000 women.
Famously,
famously says this, and this is eons ago, so what that number could be now, that over 20,000 women is in charge of this sacrificial virginity. You know what I mean? It's like, really?
No, it's the most.
This is the guy?
That's got to be intentional, right?
I would have to think so.
It's got to be like an in-joke.
Remember, she has to be brought back still.
Yeah, because, so if you guys haven't seen this movie, part of what the evil queen tasks Bombata with is that she must return with the key, this sacred item they're going to get.
Right. Get the crystal. Get
the crystal, get the key. And she has to return with her virginity intact because she has to be sacrificed.
Right.
So she has to still be a virgin. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, we're setting this girl out with Conan the Barbarian. Your job is to make sure that nothing happens.
Right.
And so you're going to have Wilt Chamberlain guard a girl's virginity.
Right.
That's funny.
And he famously was like the last person that you would ever want to do that.
Yeah. No, that has to be intentional. I was like, this doesn't. Wait, what?
Yeah, he has to escort this girl and keep her apart from Arnold Schwarzenegger. And this, I wish.
You would think they'd have chose different costumes for the girl.
Yeah, well, given that she was 14 years old when they made this movie.
That was
wow.
Oh, yeah, that was.
Olivia d'Abo was 14 when they shot this.
That's interesting. I don't think you do that these days.
No
but I think
way.
I think the producer, like Dino Laryngitis or something.
Laurentis, Bob. Dino Laryngitis. Okay,
I can't pronounce his name.
Was he on the Globetrotters? He was on the Globetrotters.
That was that guy that was on the Harlem Globetrotters.
Right, that he was on the Harlem Globetrotters. It was still a fact. I wasn't trying to defame
It's not that it wasn't a fact. It's that's what you chose to connect him to. That's all.
Yeah.
All right. I saw that guy in a cereal box. Yeah, that's right.
The guy from the Wheaties box.
Wasn't the producer known for being a giant perv in the 80s?
No, he was.
So that's why I'm like,
I think that's
this was just him.
I think that's an 80s producer requirement.
Yeah, honestly, I think a lot of them were. So this isn't something probably special to this guy, but yeah, it's a little. Once you realize, it's a little weird. It kind of makes the whole movie a little weird.
Well, yeah, I Googled her as I'm watching this movie. I go, where's she been in? And then I go, oh, okay, she's been in Wonder Years. And I go, oh, she was 14 when she made this. Oh, okay. Now now I'm like, all right, well, changes the movie.
It does. It changes the whole thing. And I think it is very funny, but back to your original point, but I do think it had to have been on purpose. Which is still hilarious.
Yeah, if it wasn't on purpose, it's still funny.
Yeah, it's funny. But I think in general, the setup plot, the setup plot being, okay, once you guys, because there's two things. Let me go back. If it's confusing, it's really, to us, it's only because, if it's, I should say, it's, blah, 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 blah. If it's confusing to you, it's only because we're making it confusing. The movie is actually very straightforward, but essentially, they have to go get two things. They have to go get a crystal, which then they take to another place that unlocks this horn that they have to bring back. So it's two items they're out to get. And what she tells Bombata, Wilt Chamberlain, is once they have the first item, the key, kill Conan. We'll have some of our elite guard follow after you, trail behind you, and they'll attack at the right time. And then you're going to wipe him out. Like, we're just using him for his thieving skills. He's the king of thieves, he's referred to at one point, right? I still think the whole setup plot is pretty weak because it's a terrible plan carried out very poorly.
Right.
And they just, every once in a while, they just show these guys on horses following after them. And then when they actually do attack, they're dispatched in like 4 minutes.
Right.
And then he just stays with them afterwards. Right? Conan's like, why'd you attack us? Well, I don't know. Weird, right? It must have been weird. Somebody must have told him to. All right, let's keep going. And then everyone's just cool and fine.
Well, the movie would have taken a completely different arc off the plot if they hadn't done that.
It just was pretty weak in my opinion. But anyway, that's the central plot. It's set in motion. And then they're off on their journey. And a lot of...
Step one on journey. We're going to go against magic. Let's go get my sorcerer buddy here.
That's right. But a lot of this movie is like walking and riding horses. It's just like they'll have a scene and then they'll have 3 shots of them riding and then another scene.
Well, it's kind of, I think that's
like
your type
Skyrim.
of movie.
Yeah.
Like you really dug that. I can't even think of the name of the Van Damme movie we just did.
Which one?
which one?
The one we just did.
Which one
That
did we
was just
do?
all walking and no
Oh,
talking.
Cyborg?
Cyborg
That's
was-
the one. See, same thing. They're
That's
just traveling. It's
I
all
like A to
traveling.
B movies where we're
Yeah.
here, we're going there.
It's all
and-
traveling
And
for
when
you.
we get
That's what
there,
you're into.
when we get there, we're gonna fight. That's
Does Conan hate water in this movie?
Walk, fight, walk, fight.
hate water. No, Fender.
If Fender was in this movie, the movie would have been 10 times great.
Could you imagine
It could have
if
been Malik.
Arnold versus Fender?
Make it happen.
Oh my gosh! And they could have had a whole conversation. Right? Oh, it would have been great.
Do you hate water?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. We're cool.
Okay. So, all right. So they set up on their journey. And you're right. They go to get their which is one of the only characters that's back from the first movie. This is a wizard, that Akiro, who had helped Conan, actually resurrected Conan in the first one. He was dead after being crucified, like using I don't know, some kind of dark magic brought him back to life. And then he is immediately, they ride down the hill, and then here's his friend getting cooked by cannibals. And so Conan rides in. It kind of reminds me of Lancelot in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where he just shows up at the wedding and just starts stabbing and killing everybody. Like, that's Conan to me in almost every scene that he's in. He just kind of rides in and just starts stabbing and killing
chops
people.
off one guy's head.
Yeah.
They magically all land on the fire, so they're cooking. Now he's cooking cannibals.
Right. So they save his buddy, the magician, who is cool because this actor has recently passed away, unfortunately, but the guy's got only one name, Mako. Or Mako. I don't know. I just say Mako because it's M-A-K-O.
M-A-K-O.
But great actor, and he was great in this movie. But yeah, they bring in this wizard specifically because he's afraid of fighting a wizard.
Right.
Right? And on a side note, the princess, Jenna, played by Olivia d'Abo, the 14-year-old princess. Is she a princess? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's because she's an evil queen. She's her
The
niece.
queen's niece, yeah.
Whatever. So she's princess. We'll just say it. But she's a little bit, and maybe it's just because she was actually 14 years old, she's a little bit boy obsessed because on almost every scene of them riding,
Right.
all she cares about is talking about sex or boys.
Right.
Right?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, she almost
don't know if
immediately
that was-
is like, oh, is he hot? I think he's hot. Is he looking at me?
right. What is a good-looking man? I've never known one other
Right.
than you. You know.
Yeah. She's very repressed.
Right. Absolutely.
And it makes it
Well, if you're
all
an evil queen and
super
you know,
uncomfortable.
If you're an evil queen and you know that, like, hey, we need to sacrifice, that's
Right.
plot tension.
Right. So they get the wizard and everything, and essentially the last person. This is one thing people didn't like about this movie is they felt like, why does Arnold need 4 sidekicks, right? Because right after this, they get another person added to their group when they
Right.
go rescue Zula.
Zula's awesome.
Awesome.
I
Yeah.
love Zula.
So you guys are fans of Grace
Yeah,
Jones.
Grace
Grace
Jones,
Jones
yeah. Did
is
amazing.
Is my Will Patton Award winner.
Already, you're just going to throw that out there.
Well, Grace Jones, because she brought it.
So you're not even going to say winner or nominee. He's going to say winner, and I'm going to have to back him up when it comes time.
Okay, fair enough. But here's what I don't understand. She's a raider. Like, she's not a good guy.
No.
Right.
Like, literally the people, like, she came with a band of raiders to raid our town and burn our village down, and they're all dead except for her.
Right.
Like, okay, she sounds like a bad person. You guys should probably all kill her. See you later. But that's not what happens.
Right.
No.
The princess requests that Conan free her or
Right.
save her, stop this from happening, which he does, and then she dispatches these idiots, and then she basically pledges her life to follow Conan.
With a stick,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? There's literally 100 people there.
Right.
And she's swinging a big giant stick around and
Right.
escapes from an angry mob.
I don't know if that's a bamboo, but those things hurt.
Oh, I'm not saying they don't
Especially
hurt.
wielded by Grace Jones.
I don't know.
I wouldn't want to get hit by a stick of any type.
And then Richard Fleischer, the director, has her wearing even less than Conan's wearing
True story.
in this movie. He's just not a fan of clothes
I
in
get
general.
that.
Well, it's
I
the
mean,
80s.
I
He had
agree.
very little fabric in the budget, I think, is what happened. They
Well,
just
that's
were
where
like,
the extra $2 million in budget from
think
the
that
first
was,
movie to this one was
disappeared?
all in-
I think it was a Dino laryngitis.
What-
like
what little fabric they had, they pasted together and put on Jenna, and there still wasn't a lot left.
Right.
That was quite the costume. And so yeah, he basically rescues her, and her and Wilt Chamberlain have a fight because
Absolutely.
she wants to come with Conan,
Wilt says no.
and Wilt says no. So here's an interesting side note. Grace Jones and Wilt Chamberlain hated each other when they made this movie.
All right.
They did not get along at all.
because she wouldn't give it up to him.
No, well,
who knows?
it's
20,000,
Wilt
that's
Chamberlain.
a lot of
It's,
people.
in all his time in the Harlem Globetrotters, he
I thought he was an NBA player. James, he's an NBA player.
I know.
He's a legend.
He is. She had never done stunts before. I don't know if this was her first movie. If it wasn't, it was her second. It was probably her first. She had never done any stunts before. So she actually bit his ear. This is how it started. When she jumped off the horse, which was they did all their own stunts. And she, in a full ride, jumps off, lands on him, and just starts headbutting him. It was
I loved it.
crazy. It was awesome.
That sounds great.
Grace Jones is awesome.
It was good.
And but then she actually bit his ear for real. That's his blood that's coming down its neck during that scene. And apparently they just didn't get along on set. Like he had to keep telling her to turn down her boombox. Like she had her, crazy 80s music playing at full blast all the time, and it was just not a good mix between the two of them.
Sure.
And it might have been that he just wanted to get with her and she wouldn't do it. I mean, 20,000 women can't be wrong. So I don't know what Grace Jones's problem was.
I couldn't tell you. Maybe he was a Harlem Globetrotter.
Jesus. Either way.
So was he on the episode?
Either way.
Was he on one of the episodes of Scooby Doo? Where they teamed up with the Harlem Globetrotters.
I don't
Get the
Just stop. This.
wow.
Here's what I'll say, and I'll use this fight as an example of what I was saying before. It's not the cast and it's not the directing. This guy had a long history of being a talented director in Hollywood. These fights and added with it a great score were well shot. So we can use the fight with Bombada and Grace Jones as an example. Very well shot, very kinetic, very good action, well staged. Mm-hmm. All the fight scenes in this movie are fantastic. It's not a bad movie because of the way they shot it. The movie looks great.
No, 100%. All the fight scenes are very well done, especially the which we'll get to in a second when he fights.
Yeah. Are you talking about Toth Amon?
Yeah, when he fights
Pat Roach.
No,
that was the other question I had.
Yeah,
his bodybuilding buddy that he fought in
Sven.
The field. Sven, yes.
Well, that comes later, but yeah,
Yes,
we'll talk.
I love that scene.
That's the best. Yeah. So Pat Roach. Let's just dive in because this is the next scene.
This is where we're going. Well, actually, it's half the next scene.
What's the question that you had?
Well, no, that was the other text I sent to you during the movie. But
yes,
basically, they travel through the night now with their band of sidekicks.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to this castle. You can see it across the little lake. It's in the middle of the lake.
Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah, which
ish.
I will say is just an idiotic decision. Let's camp outside of this evil wizard's castle.
Yeah, exactly. Right here in this cozy little hut that they left for us. Right here.
And he turns into a ghost bird and kidnaps.
Ghost bird was cool.
Smoke bird.
My bad.
And kidnaps the 14-year-old while she's still sleeping.
But nobody wakes up.
Yeah, but here's what I don't understand.
And lays her down.
Bombada is supposed to be...
He's standing up, sleeping.
Right. He's a horse.
He's literally standing up, sleeping. And they do these shots. This is where it gets a little ridiculous. Not in the fight scenes, as I said. He's clearly acting like he's asleep.
Right.
Wilt Chamberlain... He delivers his lines okay. I mean, this is the only movie he ever did. He did 2 other movies, but he played himself.
Right.
Okay. And so for a guy that did 1 movie, I thought his line readings were decent. I mean, he's playing a big dumb captain of the guard. But some of his physical acting, like where you see him in scenes where he doesn't have dialogue and he's supposed to be just reacting to things, it's just awful. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, I think this is kind of showing the fact that he's standing up because he's supposed to be the guy on guard for the evening right now.
Right.
But he's obviously nodding off and falling asleep.
But who can sleep standing up?
The guy who's trying
if you
to
nod
stay
off,
on
you would
guard.
eventually just fall over.
Nah, come on. I can sleep and drive a truck. You can sleep and stand up.
I don't know about that. But then Conan has this hilarious moment where he's asleep, but he grabs the hilt of his sword, right?
Yeah.
Like, bro.
He sensed a disturbance.
He sensed a disturbance in the force.
Yes.
I wanted him to wake up. I was like, come on, get up, Conan, because there's an animal you haven't punched yet in the face.
Could you imagine he punches a smoke bird?
Just explodes the smoke bird and just knocks
That's
her
what
back
I'm
into
saying.
the castle, and the castle just
Would it still
falls
be
on
mirror
top of
pieces?
itself.
every time I saw an animal, I was just waiting and hoping that Arnold would punch the thing in the face. But yeah, the smoke bird steals the princess, and they all wake up and she's gone. These geniuses are like, I can't believe this didn't work, us camping right here.
Then our sorcerer divines the location.
Yeah, so Toth Amon is the evil wizard who, played by Pat Roach.
Yes. Who was a professional wrestler. I was right.
Yes, you were correct. But I think a lot of people might think that because in a little bit he transforms into this like lizard monster
Right.
to fight Conan, that was a different actor, but it's the same guy.
It's the same guy, but
Yeah.
I legitimately, because we see him and he doesn't look that super imposing.
No.
But then when he's fighting the lizard guy, they define his location. They find a secret way in. They go in there. Conan gets separated.
Can we press the pause button here and talk about how they get into this castle?
That's what I was just.
They declothe themselves.
They walk it well.
Yeah.
They declothe themselves, but major. That's so loud. Let me turn it down.
We have to swim.
Hold on. Big time movie trope.
Yeah, must swim underneath barricade to get into the hideout.
Everybody is an Olympic swimmer that can see perfectly underwater, just like in Deep Rising.
Yeah, absolutely.
Drives me crazy.
I was ashamed that Treat Williams didn't show up.
Do you think Arnold Schwarzenegger and Wilt Chamberlain could swim that far and see and know exactly where they're supposed to go? And
No,
then,
you see how dirty and murky the water
that's what
was?
I'm saying. I hate that every time. Yeah, so they swim for 3 miles underneath this castle,
Yeah.
and come on out.
But if Tracy Walter can do it, they can do it too.
Well, they had a sorcerer, so maybe,
Oh, you think the wizard?
No, it's just magic.
I think
Just
Mako did really anything in this movie.
He did very little.
We have to save him for being eaten.
In fact, the whole point.
A moment from here, they even make a notice about how useless he is.
Right.
But you're a fine magician you are. Go back to juggling apples.
Go back to juggling. Well, that's the whole reason they brought you was to fight this guy.
Right.
And in this, now he helps later on in the movie, but in this encounter, he does nothing.
Right.
Why didn't they just break the piece of glass or mirror that they were behind? That would have helped immensely.
You would have had 6 people, and they're just like, no.
What did you think
We
of-
can't get in there to help Arnold because there's this piece of glass in front of us.
What'd you think of Arnold Conan versus tar dipped man beast?
Yeah, so let's get into that. They get into this.
Who is this This guy's got to be a professional wrestler the way he's actually tossing Conan. Whether he's letting him or not,
Yeah.
there is some actual
He body
technique
slams
and
him.
ability
He
here.
straight
to
up picks
throw
him
this
up
guy.
and slams him.
So this guy has stolen the girl, and he's the guardian of this. What just looks like a giant diamond, essentially, which is the key, the heart of Aramoth, I think is what he calls it. And no one's touched it in 1,000 years because no one can touch it except for this girl, and he's the guardian. And so there's this chamber where you see the jewel right in the middle, and it's surrounded on all sides by mirrors, big giant mirrors. And so one of the mirrors lowers, and Conan walks in, and then it immediately shuts behind him. So his friends are trapped on the other side of this mirror,
Right.
where then he's going to fight Tathamon, except it doesn't look like an old wizard anymore. Now he looks like this giant lizard person. And as you said, nobody breaks the mirror to go in there and help him. They just
Right.
sit there like, oh, we're trapped behind this mirror. But I thought the costume, let's talk about the costume first before the fight. I thought the costume was terrible.
Yes.
We're talking
It
about
was
Tar
bought-
Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bought from a secondhand costume
why-
shop.
The mouth is static. It doesn't even move.
Question is, we covered everything else but his nipples.
You mean with the lizard skin?
Yes.
It's like got human nipples and then lizard skin everywhere else.
Yeah. So yeah.
Why?
Well, I don't know why. I was curious. Like this whole time watching.
don't know.
Why did we run out of tar?
Richard was upset that he couldn't show any breasts in this movie, and he's like, damn it, I'm showing somebody's nipples in this film. Because Arnold's, hold on, time out. Arnold's nipples are out the entire entire movie.
You cannot hide the body.
Yeah. And so, but the mouth on this mask is static. It's like it doesn't even move articulately. It's like a plastic mask you buy at a store.
Yeah. They glued it and they painted his mouth inside the mask. You could tell.
Yeah.
You could see his mouth inside the mask. But now we're just being nitpicky.
It's not great.
No.
Not for a Hollywood movie. It's definitely B movie status.
$2 million slashed out of the budget. Had to come from
So is this
somewhere.
so $18 million movie and Megaforce still got $2 more million than this movie did? Because I think Megaforce was $20 million.
It had a $20 million budget. They had a bigger budget to make Megaforce than they did to make Conan the Destroyer.
Not a single dune buggy in Conan.
No, not a single one.
Unbelievable.
So but Pat Roach is the guy that plays the thing, which if you guys don't know this, Pat Roach was the big guy in Raiders of the Lost Ark that Indiana Jones fights in front of the plane as it's spinning around.
He punches him into the plane.
Punches him into the rotors. He's also the general from Willow with the skull helmet, right? I can't remember the guy's name, but you know that general that Val Kilmer fights at the end, and he's got the 2 swords and the dude wearing the big skull helmet. And he's also the king of the Celtics in Prince of Thieves. When they bring in the barbarians. And
Yes,
stuff. It's like every time you need a big badass like barbarian looking
awesome.
dude,
We should celebrate
It's this
Pat
guy.
Roach.
It's Pat Roach.
Okay.
Pat Roach is the man.
He's been like he's been a bad guy in like all the classics.
I know. I didn't even know that was the same guy. I mean, I knew it was the Raiders guy, but I didn't know it was Willow and Prince of Thieves and a bunch of other stuff too. Yeah,
That's a great scene in Willow. The fight
it is.
scene with Mad
Oh, it's
Mardigan.
fantastic. And Willow's on the list. I think Willow's going to be talked about at some point on this podcast. So
Is it really?
Yeah, because I know people like it, but it's like the redheaded bastard stepchild, the fantasy movies. It's just like never mentioned in the same breath as some of these like fantasy classics, and I think it doesn't get the appreciation it deserves.
Is it a part of like is it now part of the sequel TV series that Netflix is doing? Like they're doing
I don't know.
a Willow series with obviously not Val Kilmer, but
I don't know. Yeah, with Warwick Davis.
yeah, I was reading something about that.
I don't know.
Another movie I haven't seen. Maybe
You
I'll
haven't
be on
seen
that
Willow?
one. Nope.
All right, the show's been fun, but I'm out.
Here's the
No,
jam.
stay.
Here's the jam, though.
How dare you? I'll use your own line against you. How dare you?
Well, here's the jam. You guys spent a lot of time in town. You guys lived in town. All the time you spent actually watching movies, I spent riding my bicycle to and from town. I wasn't going to put a VHS tape in my back pocket and ride all the way home with it.
I got you.
I'm not
So if
knocking
my
you.
parents didn't rent it, I didn't watch it.
I got you.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. I love you.
Yeah, so I
I'm
watched.
so glad you guys made up over the fact that he hasn't seen Willow.
I know you were about to divorce me over Willow.
I was getting close. All
All right, so let's get back into this fight. So there's this big knockdown, drag out fight, which, we find out after his sword accidentally goes through one. The guy is only hurt if you break a mirror.
Right.
Which maybe not a great idea to fight Arnold in a hall of mirrors if that's the only way you can be hurt.
Right.
Right?
That's funny.
It's like, why would you choose to fight him here?
And here's the other jam. There's a weird pause at the end. He breaks a mirror. He breaks a mirror. He breaks a mirror. This guy keeps getting hurt. There's only 2 mirrors left. What's the difference which one he breaks? Why does it matter?
His friends are behind one. They're trying to build dramatic tension. It
Right.
does. It makes no sense.
But
You're
even
right.
if he breaks that one, it's like, oh, hey, he got hurt and I found my friends. And then you break the other one. Life is done.
Yeah, they made it sound like if you hit the mirror, his friends were going to explode.
Right. But he does do a really sweet sword throw
Right.
through the thing, and the guy just comes out with the sword in his.
Schwarzenegger is a
In his
beast.
stomach.
How he swung that sword and all the film, and like the whole movie, how he just did
The
choreo-
physicality of
Yes,
Arnold.
just-
I mean, you can see here, it's in full display in this movie, why he was such a successful leading man for years to come, right? He just embodies the character, and he just totally believable in all the physical aspects of the role.
100%.
And just all the slow-mo shots of him swinging it. He's just hitting glass.
Right.
But it's still cool, even though the premise is ridiculous.
Can we get a sword and break glass things?
Yeah, you want to do we'll
video.
remake just like we did with the Office Space?
That'll be awesome.
All right, buy 12 mirrors. And we'll surround you with them.
I have that dessert case.
We have to get a copy of Conan's Atlantean sword too, and then
Okay. Well, does it have to be that sword? I mean, we
No.
can just break
Be a
stuff
sword.
just to break stuff.
it could be a sword. Yeah, but I agree
Thundercat
that
sword?
I kind of knew this guy was a professional wrestler when he put him up on the razor's edge. At one point in the fight, I'm like, oh, he's setting him up for his finishing move here.
Right.
But that's when he kicks the glass out from behind him. But overall, the premise is stupid and corny and cheesy, and so is the
Right.
costume. But the fight itself was good,
Yeah.
well shot, and the score adds so much to it. So overall, C+. It could have been really bad, but it was saved.
Overall C+. I mean, that's generous. I gave it a D.
Just that fight scene?
Well, just the way Pat Roach, not knocking Pat Roach, but it's just
Yeah.
like when you put guys, once again, bodybuilders weren't falling out of the skies in Hollywood,
No.
really. So everybody,
Yeah.
but you just look at them fighting each other. I didn't buy for a second that Pat Roach can do the Cesaro tilt-a-whirl
Right.
by
If
any
Arnold
means.
didn't want him.
Oh, that was the cheesiest part of the
Because
fight.
I think it was just from a physical specimen. You look at Pat Roach, not knocking the guy; he's a big guy, but listen, his
Well, he's
arms
bigger
are-
than Arnold.
He's bigger than Arnold, but you just look at his arm, just look at him
Yeah.
from a physical standpoint. You're just like, no, I can't believe that.
But like, look at all the world strongmen in general. They are
Yeah.
all big dudes.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not cut like Arnold and
No.
stuff like that. They may
No.
be the most physically, visually stunning specimens, but they're not the strongest.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not taking no fact that they're not strong. But yeah, no, a big guy like that, he could still throw people around. Obviously, he did.
Yeah. I think overall Pat Roach is the man, but in this case, I agree with you. I think we should.
Actually, if they would have cut that out, it would have been more believable.
Yeah. I just realized it's already been an hour and we're only like halfway through this, so we just got to pick up the pace a little bit. Is all I'm saying.
All right. No.
As far as getting, I don't know. I want you to talk. I want you to talk.
All right.
But just in general, we got to just keep it a little tighter.
man.
All right, so they essentially leave then the castle. The castle starts to fall apart after they Jenna removes the key, and you're like, okay, when's Bombada going to kill him? I thought as soon as she had it, he was supposed to, but they don't. They take the boat out of there, and they ride on and on. And then eventually the guards, they say, this is when we're going to strike.
Right.
Sven Ugelson, or whatever the guy's name is that's in all of Arnold's movies, who's actually a bad guy in the first Conan movie. That's why they had to put a mask on him.
Right. You would recognize them instantly.
Right? Because they're like, why is the same bad guy that he killed in the last movie here again? And then they fight, and the fight itself between those two is fantastic.
That was a fantastic fight.
Yeah.
Very well choreographed and shot.
And as a kid seeing the movie, this was my favorite part of the movie. When Arnold and Sven fight, and he gets knocked off the horse, and he goes immediately into that pose
Right.
on the ground.
The Conan pose?
The Conan pose, and then he puts the sword in front of him, and it's like bisecting his entire body perfectly. And then like just him doing that, and the guy gets all scared, and he puts his hand up in the air, and it's just all kind of hilarious, but also amazing. And it's a mostly bloodless fight because of the limitations in the film itself, but it's fantastic.
Yep.
I feel like I say that word a lot. It's really great.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. And following that scene is probably one of your favorite scenes, Bob.
What's that?
The drunk scene.
Like I said earlier, I wasn't.
They all just like, so this is what I'm talking. So
There were so many questionable things that happened in this scene.
Bombada tries to kill Arnold after he dispatches the last guard, but only really swings at him once before Jenna jumps in and is like, stop, what are you doing? And Arnold is, obviously like, why did they attack us? What are you doing? Mm-hmm. He gives some kind of half-ass excuse about it. I thought you were going to try and hurt the girl. And
That's the dumbest excuse.
And then everything's fine. And they're like, all right, fine, let's all go get drunk together. And so.
Right. The sorcerer mixes up his healing salve.
That's right. That's right.
There were so many questionable things happening in this
Like
camp
what?
out scene. Well, for starters, what's Tracy Walters'
Malik.
Malik and his
attempted sexual assault.
Yes. The unusual touching of someone's inner thigh.
It was so uncomfortable.
And Grace Jones' character Zula saying,
What are you doing?
That's not my wound.
Right.
Oh, I'm trying to make sure there's no infection.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's just rubbing way too high.
And then
It was the 80s, bro.
obviously Wonder Years girl is talking about,
she's like, oh, I'm going to go rub some stuff on Conan.
right. I'm just like,
And- well,
God.
And some people had a problem with, when I go and I looked at why they didn't like this movie compared to the first one. And a lot of people cited this scene as kind of an injustice done to the character, that it wouldn't make any sense for Conan to just be here blindly drunk being an idiot. I'm like, they must not have seen the first movie because he was drunk in the first movie.
Wasn't he like making love to like a crazy creature in the first movie?
I don't know if it was a crazy creature, but there was a couple scenes where he was drunk and punched a camel.
Yeah. I mean, so Conan does drink everybody. It's
yeah.
okay.
So I don't know
But
what that is.
There was just so many weird moments in this campfire scene, but one of, and this is the quote of the movie for me was, learn how to fight with a real weapon. Hold on. Sorry.
Yeah. So, let me set it up for you. Because I think I know what you're going to say here.
Yeah.
Is, after Conan has this drunk conversation with Jenna and then passes out, she walks over to Zula to say, teach me how to be a warrior, essentially, because now I've realized that's what Conan wants.
Right.
And she wants Conan. So she gets up, she's going to show her how to fight with the staff. This is what you're talking about?
Yes.
And Conan, randomly wakes up and says the funniest thing in the movie.
Learn how to fight with a real weapon. Now the toothpick.
It's so great, man.
It is great.
It's my favorite line in the entire movie.
It's the best line in the whole movie.
It is. And Arnold, I think from an acting standpoint, plays drunk pretty well.
Right.
And this is when he walked, and then he turns around and walks into Bombada and just collapses.
Yeah.
And you realize just how much taller Wilt Chamberlain is than Arnold
And
Schwarzenegger.
at that point, why wouldn't Boombata
Just kill him?
do his plan? Like, oh, here's our chance to make up for being an idiot earlier.
Yes.
But then we wouldn't have that awesome scene.
But I think he's afraid of him.
Well, he may be afraid of him, but you also have to deal with oh my gosh,
Grace Jones,
Grace
Zula.
Jones,
Grace
Zula, and the Wizard.
I've been more afraid of Grace Jones.
So you think the issue? Because I wondered that. So there's so many opportunities later to kill him. This being the first one.
That's the thing, though.
Why doesn't he?
That's why they set up that. Okay, we're gonna have all these raiders help to do it because Wilt Chamberlain's character is one dude.
Yeah.
Versus, why did we have 4 sidekicks?
Right.
Well, there it is. There's a little bit of extra protection for Arnold's character. So why you didn't just take him out? So maybe they were kind of layering the
because he essentially just runs away from him at the end.
Right.
He like traps them in a cave and then like we got to get out of here and just runs. I'm like they're just running. Like he didn't even complete his mission. He's gonna get back and did you kill him? No. He just chooses not to carry out his mission.
Well, maybe he's just at that point thinking too. It's like, hey, if they're trapped in there, we get back in time, get this all done. We're gonna have the power of this guy here. We're gonna be invincible.
Do you think it's that, or do you think he just came to respect Conan in a way and didn't want to kill him either?
That could be that too. I didn't feel that deep into it. Maybe on my 47th watching.
No, I don't know. But after this, we can just jump forward to the next thing they've got to accomplish, which is the Horn Heist. Right? They've got this jeweled horn they have to take from this cave, and guess what? There's another evil cult inside of this cave. How many Dagoth cults are there in this area?
Several. At least 3.
At least 3.
At least 3. I mean, look at Skyrim, for God's sakes.
I loved this guy that played, his name's Ferdy Main, okay?
What's his name?
Ferdy, Ferdy.
It's right before Fitty.
Right before Fitty?
Ferdy.
Yeah, Fitty.
Ferdy. He played the cult leader in this cave and apparently a wizard. We find out a little bit into the scene as he's using his wizard skills. I think this guy was just completely insane and unhinged and played it fantastic.
He did play it very, very good.
Yeah. And so they go and they get the horn. This is when they realize, Akira realizes, he reads the text scribed into the wall that what the real plan is going to be in, right? She's going to be sacrificed.
The other, what's that? Oh my God. Wow. Okay.
Good stuff, Bob.
The other what?
Good stuff.
I can help you.
Literally just plot device. Like he literally just read the plot device off the manuscript.
He read the plot device. He's like, oh, look, they've got the plot written on this wall over here.
Well, that's because he didn't hear the expo dump.
Thank you. He literally just gave away the rest of the rest of the plot to Conan.
But another great fight scene ensues. So they try to leave with the horn, and the cult shows up. And then Conan gives his great line, enough talk, and just throws a dagger right into this dude. And they fight like another 50 guys as they back their way back into the cave.
Yep.
And it's all great. I'm like, I could have watched the
cave.
I could have watched a whole movie about this. I'm like, why were there any talking in this movie?
There was a spot there where I do believe Conan says, "Get to the boat."
That's right.
Boat.
Sorry, we totally skipped over that earlier.
Yes. But
the awesome green screen boat scene.
Oh gosh, where he's just like spinning the oar around. They're clearly not in the water. Yeah, no, the effects were not great. Smoke Bird was the best part from an effects standpoint. But yeah, so why ever interrupt this fighting with talking in this movie is what I want. Every time they stop fighting and start talking, I'm like, dang it, now we got to wait for another fight.
Because knowledge is power,
talking.
man.
Yeah, well, it's okay, I guess. But this is what I appreciated about Arnold's line here. He said, enough talk. I'm like, yes, no more talking for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Just fighting.
Right.
That's it. And they back their way into the cave, and they've got this door, this kind of, it's like the mouth of this beast that's built into a statue that's closing, and the evil wizard comes up, and he's doing this. With the physicality, this guy is great because he's like doing all these weird things with his hands, and he's yelling. He's super intense.
That's really good.
He says there's better, he's like, I don't have a dagger and it's bad luck to kill a wizard. And so this is the moment when Akira finally steps up and helps, right? He says there are better ways to take care of a wizard. And they have like a little wizard fight.
Yeah.
Which there are no effects added to the wizard fight at all. It's just two guys making like hand gestures at each other.
2 damage. They're LARPing.
They're LARPing, exactly. They're just being very intense.
Yeah.
But they're literally just doing nothing. And the guy just at one point grabs his face and he's like, ah! That's why I love that guy's performance.
And then Akira like collapses.
They believed it.
Yeah.
He's all wiped out from
Yeah,
it.
exactly. It's great. And then they escape. Like the Bombada causes a cave in, so the Conan and his friends can't keep up, and takes the girl back to Shadazar, which is where we are all headed. Eventually, Conan gets out, and now Conan, the
Obviously,
genius, finally puts it together.
obviously, Boombada they didn't have access to a video store, so they just had no clue what he just did.
If he had watched Conan the Barbarian,
Yes.
he
If
would have
you
made
looked
different
at
decisions.
the legend of Conan
Right.
in the holy text of wherever he was from, and
Of Video Empire.
a video empire, and said, I just caused a cave collapse on this man.
Right. Right. The whole time in that first scene when the queen is like, as it is written in the scrolls of Skelos, I'm like, how about you check out the scrolls of Conan the Barbarian?
Exactly.
Because I know we're joking about seeing the movie, but it's clear from the beginning of the film, he's famous.
Yeah.
When people yelling, Conan, Conan, everybody knows who Conan is.
Mm-hmm.
So why on earth would you be like, this is the guy we've got to double cross and kill to do this?
Well, obviously, they didn't have the John Wick screenwriters at the time.
Right.
Well, and here's the jam too. Conan was such a doofus and along for the ride anyway. Why would they have to kill him anyway?
Right.
At that point, you know what I mean?
Just
Why
come
would it have
back.
made any difference? He would have let you sacrifice the girl in order to get his girl back.
You could have dropped the girl off. They
Right.
would have go, here's your money.
And-
Well, no, because he was then expecting you to resurrect his girlfriend, which they
Right.
would not have been able to do.
Right. But it'd say, okay, after this ritual and stuff like that, we'll be able to do that, and then it'd be too late at that point.
You think he would have let her die?
I don't know.
For $250 space bucks, yes.
For
Lunch, gas, and tolls.
For lunch, gas, and tolls.
And a
He was
camel.
obviously more interested in the task at hand
Yeah.
and completing the whole thing so that he could get his wife. This whole thing, he's still believing that he's got to bring this girl back at that
Right.
point.
Right.
Right up until right now, where they're going back and got in the cave in. But at that
Yeah.
point, his task is to bring it back so he can get his beloved back.
Right. So I think maybe for that, he might have let anything happen if he
Right.
thought he was going to get his
Potentially.
beloved back. Yeah, Valeria. Well, he decides to head back. Like I said, this is where he finally puts it all together. They're standing in the parking lot with their horses, and they realize that
parking lot.
the promise of his beloved Valeria coming back was a lie.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're going to go to Shadazar to stop Jenna's sacrifice, and Malik wants nothing to do with it.
Right.
But changes his mind 4 seconds later, which is like the third time they did this bit
Yeah.
in this movie.
I wish a rock just fell on him. like just.
But then he becomes useful.
Yeah, he does. He does. But
Finally.
still, well, he knows the back door into Shadazar, right?
Right.
Because they can't just walk in the front door. There is still only 4
Right
of
into
them.
the throne room, too. Why are there constantly
Yeah.
these secret passages right into the throne room?
It's
That
the
seems
same
like
guy that built Castle Grayskull built Shadazar. They're
Again,
using the
we're
same
back
contractor.
we're back to what I said earlier. The landscape looked usable.
There was only one. There was
Where
only
the
one
throne room
movie
was.
that was allowed to get away with going through the front door.
What's that?
The Matrix.
The Matrix. Oh, that's right. That's right. But they couldn't have done that in this. But
But it's a movie trope, though.
It is a movie
going
trope.
through the back door.
it's and unnecessary comedic relief in the moment. So they go up this waterfall, and underneath the waterfall is this passage which has now been barred off.
Right.
And so it's a chance for Arnold to show off his muscles and rip
Yep.
the bars apart. But the whole time this cool moment is happening, there's this totally unnecessary comedic moment about his cousins, sisters, brothers, whatever, that he keeps saying over and over again until Zula is just screaming at him. Who cares about your brothers, sisters? What difference does it make? Like, that's not even funny.
Right.
You're just taking what should be a serious moment, the moment that the movie shifts in tone to now we're here to rescue this girl.
No, it's that half chuckle, that trying to walk that line between.
Yeah.
Tracy Walters in this movie, though I liked him and everything else, his character Malik belongs with Juice from Garbage Pail Kids.
Trash can full of dirt award.
He's just
Yeah.
useless.
Well, he is until in a little bit. He does one thing good and then immediately ruins it, which we'll get to. But before we do that, they sneak into the palace, and after taking out a few guards here and there as they're sneaking their way in, Arnold walks into the room and Bombada walks into the same room.
Right.
And we're finally going to have it out. How did you guys think that final confrontation played out between Bombada and Conan?
If I was Conan, I would have thrown him a basketball and he would have got so confused and I would have just tore him up.
No, well, listen, he should have used all his time in the Harlem Globetrotters to like fake him out with like a fake bucket that he thought was going to be full of water, but it just had confetti in it.
Right.
And then Conan would have been so confused.
Or Conan could have hit a flaming ball at his head and exploded his head. His death was terrible.
Why Bombada's death?
Yeah, so like coming from the 80s where everybody's death should be ridiculous, and mostly bad guys' deaths are ridiculous.
I thought it was
he was the lamest death on the planet.
I thought the way it ended was kind of like
good fight.
It fizzled out, but the fight was good. I mean, Wilt sold the physicality well. I mean, he was swinging so hard he couldn't even block it with his sword. It was like he'd go to block with the sword, and the sword would almost get like knocked out of his hand. And it was really, really a great fight. And you just stabbed him in the side with
a little knife.
With a little knife, and that's it.
No head decapitation, no exploding fireball, baseball to the face.
Yeah, but it's a good fight, and I like that all of his little sidekicks did get a chance. It's at least one moment to shine, right? Yeah. Like so, Akiro saved the day by fighting that other wizard, and then here while he's fighting Bombada, he yells to Zula, "Save the girl!"
Oh,
right.
This is the coolest.
And so she's the one that actually saves the girl, not Conan. Right. She spears the guy from across the throne room.
She Sparta spears.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
She's great. With a stick.
With a toothpick.
Zula is the unsung hero in this movie. She's fantastic.
It was awesome.
And of course, another trope they put in there, this big, tough, scary person's afraid of mice, right? Okay. Funny. But we skipped over that earlier. But yeah, so she saves the girl, and because they put the horn in Daggett, and as the priest is about to sacrifice Jenna, he's got his arms raised up with a knife, is when Zula impales him with the spear from across the throne room. It ruins the whole ceremony because a non-virgin was killed, essentially, or sacrificed. And so the thing starts to mutate, and the stone statue that was going to come back to life as this god turns into this horrific monster, which was legitimately gross, I thought.
Yeah.
Who was played by Andre the Giant.
It was Andre the Giant inside the costume, yes. Which is hilarious to me.
He could have done more.
Well, he had a bad back. He could barely move at this point.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like in general, Andre the Giant is a badass.
Yeah.
Dude's a beast.
He is.
But like legitimately, they didn't do anything with this monster.
No, he basically stood in one spot, would swing his arms around and lumbered around and jumped down one step. And that was just Arnold. That was just Andre's limitations, unfortunately, at that point in his career. If they had done this in the 70s, he probably would have been able to do a lot more.
That's true.
A few years later, or maybe was it 2 years later when they did Princess Bride, there was a lot he wasn't able to do in that movie either because just of his physical ailments at that point in his life. But yeah, man, we got Andre the Giant, Wilt Chamberlain, and Arnold Schwarzenegger in the same movie. And we get an Arnold versus Andre fight here as Daggett. And the fight was a little bit underwhelming.
Sure. This was probably the lightest of the Arnold fights in the whole thing.
Yeah. But I appreciate that I think that's what I was just going to say. I appreciate that the director and Arnold did everything they could to make it awesome. The lighting was incredible. They had the lightning, the wind. I mean, they were like his hair is blowing in the wind in every single shot. Right?
Oh, dude, that shot when he holds the sword.
When he's holding the sword, I mean, it just looks epic.
Yeah,
and that's what a director can take that's not on the page, and add and like make a scene intense just by lighting and staging and all of that stuff. So they did everything they could to be like, this is an exciting moment.
Yeah.
Even though the monster itself could barely move.
Sure.
So they were a little bit limiting, but they're like, we're going to pull out every trick we can to make it intense. And so that part was great. And I thought the part of the fight that was actually pretty intense was him trying to rip the horn off.
That was gross.
That was gross.
That was awesome.
You feel every tendon ripping.
I know you see all the things going. I'm like, oh, to this day I have a hard time.
He's doing the Arnold.
Yeah, he just jumps on this thing's back because Mako's character Akira just goes, pull out the horn.
Pull out the horn.
And so he just jumps on this thing's back and he's just pulling it like it's like a rhino horn.
Right.
And he's pulling it back, and at the base of it you just see all the tendons and everything just snapping and oh, it's so bad.
Only Schwarzenegger. Well, actually, this is another animal. I guess that's Schwarzenegger.
Rhino Beast.
The Rhino Beast just rips his horn out. Only Schwarzenegger.
As soon as the god turned into an animal, Arnold said, "You just made the biggest mistake of your life."
How dare you?
This is my favorite thing to do: is to punch and kill animals.
That's messed up.
How do you think Schwarzenegger would have been in like the Jurassic time period.
I don't know.
Just
could we had he would have 100% made Jurassic Park better.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Somebody been like
the Velociraptor by one tail, or whipped him into the oven and been like, well done.
Right. Well done. He's like the T-Rex showed up, right? And the doctor would have said, don't move. His movement or his vision's based on movement. He's like, watch this. And then just punched the T-Rex directly in the face.
Yes, and the T-Rex would have exploded.
Oh.
Just spontaneously combust.
Be great. So here's the thing. Here's what I will say, and I don't want to miss Malik's big moment. We've been building up to it. Malik was helpful in that Arnold was caught in a bear hug by this thing, this monster, and Malik throws the dagger like right underneath the horn, which makes him drop Arnold. And then Arnold's able to get behind him and jump on his back. So that was the moment that he got to actually be helpful.
Sure.
And then they ruined this incredibly intense when he finally dies and the lighting is going and his hair is whipping in the wind and he's holding the sword. I'm like, this great moment. He comes over, Malik comes over and stabs the monster with his little dagger and puts his foot on it like he did it. I'm like, you just ruined this epic moment with a stupid try at comedy.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the moment for a comedic moment, in my estimation. But the bad guy is defeated, and all is well, and Princess Jenna has the Star Wars scene where they all get their medals.
Sure.
And,
gross.
And eventually, Zula becomes the new captain of the guard. The wizard is now, Shadazar's wizard, Akira. And
she so desperately wants Schwarzenegger.
She does. Malik becomes the fool.
Court jester.
The court jester. And then she basically asks Arnold to be with her.
Right.
And he turns her down flat.
Thank God.
But she kisses him.
It was gross.
37-year-old, 14-year-old. There's a
what
kiss.
What do you think Arnold was
movie.
thinking of, like, at that time when someone told him?
I think he was still like, I don't want to do this. If you watch, his face and lips never move. It's like she kissed a statue.
Right.
He literally just stands there. And really, it's not. They don't kiss each other. She kisses him.
Shame on you, Dino Laryngitis.
And so I don't know if that was a choice. Like, Arnold just will never have eyes for anybody but his beloved, which could have been an acting choice. But I also hope that he did that because he just wanted nothing to do with what was happening, because it's so.
It's very gross.
Yeah, that's bad. And then that's the end. He rides off and they promise more adventures that never come, right? He says, I have my own kingdom and my own queen. And
they rewrote it Zul the Conqueror. It did exist.
Yeah.
I mean, the Conan the Conqueror was supposed to be the third movie.
Right.
Yeah, what happened to Legend of Conan?
And there was a legend also. In 2019, Arnold said it's still in the works.
Did he?
Yeah.
But then they just recently read something that they canceled it because of...
I don't know. But I mean...
COVID.
It would have been nice to put a bow on this series, but the problem is,
it was actually the king. The legend was gone, and it was going to be the king.
Arnold was, he kind of wanted to walk away from the series. He wasn't thrilled with the end result. He thought they should have kept it rated R. They should have kept it in the same tone as the first one, and so he was contractually obligated, but not thrilled with the final product or the direction they took it in. So he kind of walked away from the series.
It has to exist somewhere, because they had all those scenes that they actually cut. Did they cut and not shoot them, or did they shoot them and they didn't?
No, they reworked the script, so they didn't even shoot that stuff. No,
that would have been unfortunate, because then they could have just made it for.
And then if they had, now he wants to come back to it later in life after he's had time and he's not as mad anymore, but. The time to do that really was a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
And at that point, he was too upset about it still.
Well, and that's why they have changed it along the way.
Right.
To like, okay, now it's the legend of, so it's not a next story.
Right.
Well, and now it's the king, Conan the King.
Conan, yeah.
What'd you think of the remake?
I never saw the Jason Momoa remake because I was so upset that they were remaking it, because to me, it's Conan is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Nothing against Jason. I like him in his other stuff. I don't avoid his movies.
It's actually pretty decent. It doesn't hold a candle to these two, the Schwarzenegger films, but actually was the villains played by Stephen Lang.
Oh, is Stephen Lang? I might watch it. I didn't know that. I like Stephen Lang.
And it's a fun film.
Okay. I'll check it out. In the meantime, let's give some awards, guys. The Conan the Destroyer was not given any awards by anybody. And so for the first time in history, right here, folks, on Bad Movies Rule, we will be giving awards to Conan the Destroyer. It only had to wait 40 years for us to give it some awards. We're going to do it right here. And we're going to start with the Will Patton Award. This is the award we give out to someone in a smaller role that was just going for it 110%. Brought the intensity and delivered a great performance. And so, Bob, you have already said that Grace Jones
Absolutely, 100%.
Are you sticking with that?
I am sticking with that. She was the best thing about the movie. I'm not discrediting Schwarzenegger at all.
Okay.
But she literally just made this movie her B.
Okay. And
Yeah.
are you going with Grace Jones as well?
I feel the same. I'm torn at putting her in the top 3 altogether.
Yeah.
But like legitimately, I have to say has to be, I mean, Will Patton and maybe number 3.
Okay.
It's just one of those
Well,
things.
that's 2 votes out of 3. So we're going to go ahead and give the Will Patton Award to Grace. I didn't nominate her only because I wasn't sure if she was in it too much to
That's
be
what I'm
eligible.
saying. She borders that line.
But it's, I think, not worth an argument, and I'm more than happy to just give it to her because she was awesome, right? And so I picked a smaller character for that reason, but if she is eligible, I would agree with you. She's the clear winner.
Which was your smaller character?
Ferdy Main, the leader of the cult in the cave with the horn at the end that was doing all the, Ferdy Main, I thought was just like, this guy believes that whatever is happening is actually happening.
My toss between and the oddity
Yeah.
and my list was either Grace Jones or it was going to be Sarah Douglas because she was actually in the movie less.
She was only in like 2 scenes.
Sarah Douglas is beautiful.
3 scenes.
Right. But
She is.
That doesn't mean she couldn't be.
She's gorgeous.
Yeah. All right. And so we have to move on to our next award, which is the Trash Can Full of Dirt Award.
Malik.
Malik gets
Anybody
this.
could
Malik.
have done that.
Oh.
Malik gets it.
Bob could have done that role
No.
better.
Tracy Walter that doesn't deserve
I
the
would've
trash
known
can full of dirt.
I would have known when to shut up if I would have been like, I would
Wait,
like,
you want me to go?
You want me to
stab
say
him and
this?
Put
This-
my knee up there? No.
this looks dumb, man. I've been fired probably, but
Well, all right.
Hey, listen,
if you're
we
both
love-
going to nominate him, then we'll give him the Trash Can Full of Dirt
Who
award.
did you
I
want?
had Olivia Diabo, Jenna. I thought she was a terrible actress.
She's
Bombata.
she wins the most uncomfortable, awkward, underage award.
Well, but she also was a terrible actress in this movie.
That too.
I mean, I didn't believe a thing she said.
No, she was not.
But I wanted to give an honorable mention to the guard in the cult in the the horn the horn cult. I know there's 2. I have to differentiate because there's so many cults.
There's a lot of
The one in the horn cave after they had that conversation
Horn
with
cave cult.
Ferdy Main, right? The guy that had the one like, give us the girl and we'll take her. He was my runner-up for the Trash Can Full of Dirt award. It's like, bro, you had one line, and that's how you're going to say it?
Oh,
All right. So we've got Grace Jones winning the Will Patton Award and Tracy Walter winning the Trash Can Full of Dirt. So give us your top 3 performances. Who were the top 3 in this movie? I'll start us off this time. At number 3, I do have Grace Jones in there. No one can say anything about her performance in this movie. She was not an actress, but all she needed to be was somebody that seemed totally unpredictable, totally unhinged, that you didn't know from moment to moment what she was going to do, and she did that perfectly.
ridiculously intense.
Yes. And so I gave Mako number 2. I thought he was also very good in this movie. He embodied the character. I believed what he said. I felt like he was telling the truth from an acting standpoint, and was the second best performer in this movie. And if you thought I was going to give anybody number 1 besides Arnold Schwarzenegger, you are gravely mistaken.
I don't think there's a non-Arnold Schwarzenegger number 1 in the room
We'll find out.
or in the county.
would Van Damme make this movie better?
Ooh,
Would Van Damme make this movie
as
better?
Malik.
If it had been a team-up movie,
Yeah.
let's go.
Not instead of.
Instead of
How many close calls have we had with Van Damme and Schwarzenegger teaming up?
a lot. But he was in The Last Action Hero.
He was. I would not miss this premiere for a second.
That's right. All right. Who is your top 3?
My top 3, we are going to sit there. Arnold is number 1, obviously. I had my number 3. I can't find her name. Oh, Sarah Douglas. I'm sorry.
Douglas. Okay.
I'm terrible with that. And then I would say also Malik was awesome. Or not Malik. Mako. Mako again was also, but I'm actually going to put Wilt Chamberlain in. I know he's not an actor, and he didn't do the most fantastic stuff, but legitimately, I did like his.
Wilt Chamberlain did fine.
He did all right. So his line delivery was good. There was some physicality issues here and there, like you were talking. There's some background scene stuff he doesn't really do well.
There's a moment, and I guess now because I skipped over, so we're gonna go back and do this now. The little things. There's a little moment in this movie where he comes into the mirror room after everything has been, and he's supposed to be like looking around, like he's not sure what's happening or where they are. And he gives the most hilarious take. No lines, and it happens in the background. But if you go back and watch, he's just like, oh. He's just like so overdoing it. It's like that's the moments where you realize, okay, he's not an actor. But in the fights and all that, in the line, I mean, he did fine. I don't argue with you having him in the top. I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah.
In fact, I thought he did good enough that I was surprised to see he didn't do anything else.
Yeah.
After this, what couple of little things I want to mention since we're on the little things. And I'm sorry for skipping over this. I thought it was hilarious when the wizard turned into a smoke bird and captured her and brought her into this ice castle where it's just ice and rock everywhere, but he's still got like a comforter from JCPenney on the bed that he puts her on. Right? That was a little thing that I was like, okay.
He had time to go to self-checkout.
The stupid, this is a little comedic thing that is just dumb, and it just changed the tone of the movie. The little sound effect they added when she shakes her tail off after she gets out of the water, they add like a little Tinkerbell noise. And I'm like, you don't need that in this movie. It's stupid. Two more. One, the scene where Arnold's fighting the guys in the cave and he's got the guy over his head like he's going to do a press slam. If you guys go back and watch, this is in the Horn Cave also, and he throws him into like 4 guys, right? And they all kind of catch him just like in a wrestling match.
Yeah.
If you watch, there's only 3 guys there to catch him, and there's a 4th guy that's like late to get in the shot. And instead of running towards Arnold, he like runs over to get by the other guys to help catch the dude. And it's absolutely hilarious. He's like, oh, I got to get over here to get hit by this guy, which makes 0 sense to what's happening, in the film. So watch that. And then also just a side note, if they cut out every scene of Arnold holding or forcing open doors in this movie would be 10 minutes shorter. How many times is there a shot in this movie of Arnold having to push open a big, giant, heavy door?
Well, maybe
if you had heavy doors that needed opening and Arnold was there, is he not the guy you?
But they take so much time on it. There's one in the ice castle that takes forever. Then there's the one where they go in the Horn Cave. Then they got the vertical one where he's like, help me lift this door.
It's a good reason to get his flex on. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. But there's I realized halfway through, I'm like, there's a lot of shots of him opening doors in this movie.
Well, maybe he didn't have time with all the shooting to get his workout in. And that was legitimately, they were just filming some of his, maintenance workout.
Yeah. And then the one thing I like about Malik is his birds and the bee talk with Jenna.
Yeah, I was hoping we were going to skip that over.
That was hilarious. It's stupid. But when his line delivery for this, because he's a good actor. Tracy Walters is a good actor.
He is.
And his line delivery of when he's just trying to go, well, he's got to take his, and you got to join.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of awkwardly, well, and then that's it, right? I mean, how do you think flowers grow? I'm like, I thought a great line delivery from him and a super, super awkward scene.
The most cringe scene in the movie.
100%. Cringe meter off the charts in that movie. All right. Sorry, we skipped over the little things and I had some things here on there. So, all right. So, Bob, what's your top 3?
Top 3. 1, Schwarzenegger. 2, Grace Jones. 3, Sarah Douglas.
Sarah Douglas getting the number. So you both had Sarah Douglas in your top 3.
Yeah.
I can't argue with that. I thought she was good.
She was good.
But to me, I thought that Mako was just a little bit better. But I think Sarah did a great job in this movie. She's still doing stuff today. She's
I didn't realize she was. I mean, I thought she was older than what she was today.
No, she's the same age as Dad. She was born
68.
52.
I'm like, wow, she's not that old.
No, not at all. Not at all. So finally, guys, let's wrap this up. Let's put a bow on our Conan the Destroyer episode. I have to ask the question, now that we've walked through this movie, we've talked about the scenes that must be discussed, we've examined the little things, the lines of dialogue, the staging, the shooting, the score, all of that. Is Conan the Destroyer a bad movie?
Yes.
Right out of the gate. Bad.
Is it a bad movie? Is it a bad movie, or is it a good bad movie?
It's a good bad movie.
But it is a bad movie.
It is a bad movie.
This is not a
Yes.
good movie that's determined bad. This is
No.
a bad movie that we'll watch anyway.
Yeah. So okay, I think we all agree. This is objectively as a film, it's not a good movie.
No, it's
It's a bad movie.
It's a bad movie.
But it's a good bad movie to me.
Yes, it's a good bad movie.
It's not like Spy Hard, which is bad.
Right.
Bad. We'll give that 3 bads. That's a bad movie.
Bad. I think that. Wow.
All right. Well, look, guys, we appreciate that you joined us. Thank you for listening. And if you want to connect with the show, there's multiple ways that you can do that. So we're most active on our Facebook page. That's at facebook.com/badmoviesrule. Also, if you want to email the show, we're going to start doing these mailbag segments, and we would love to hear from you and read your mail on the air and interact with you that way. You can reach the show at thisshowIstrash@gmail.com, an aptly named email address for the quality of this program. Also, you can find us on TikTok at Bad Movies Rule. We just started that, actually. I had been running some things through my personal one, and just this week I created one. I haven't posted any videos for it yet, but go on there and follow. So we've got some people following Bad Movies Rule, and we'll start posting our clips and our videos on that TikTok as well. And we just appreciate that you've been listening. Thank you. If you guys listened all the way to the end of this episode, you're either a big, giant Arnold fan or you're certifiably insane. And either way, it makes me love you that much more. So for Bob Hauser, Clint Bush, this is James Hauser, and thank you for listening. Join us next week. We're going to have our Halloween special episode. We're going to be discussing Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Just a dog crap piece.
I'm so lucky to not be on that one. That's the best.
When's
part.
that one?
We're doing that next week. So
Bob, you had that thing with me, right?
That's right.
Thought you said you were skipping next week.
No, not on Monday. We're doing that on Sunday.
You're doing it Sunday.
Because Pat Riley's coming into town.
Oh, that's right.
We love you guys. Thank you for listening.